You are listening to the CAD Call podcast. This is the place where computer-aided design and drafting meets humor and practicality, with a touch of business acumen thrown in for fun. Jim and Rocco, the owners of ZenTek Consultants, the premier U.S. technology consulting firm for architecture, engineering, construction, and manufacturing, discuss the fascinating world of CAD with some humor and some honesty. The CAD Call podcast. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the CAD Call podcast with Jim and Rocco from ZenTek Consultants. I am Jim, your jovially obnoxious host, I guess, or maybe I'm obnoxiously jovial. I don't know which, but either way, that's me. And with me, as always, is my partner.
It's Rocco, and I don't know what to say about that. It's just, where's your wife when I need her?
I intentionally make sure she's never anywhere near here, because that's just going to I get people ganging up on me then, and that's no fun. But you know what is fun, Rocco? The engineering joke of the week. So, all right, so here we go, Rocco. You ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready. Okay, so a mathematician, a physicist, and an engineer are all given identical rubber balls, and they're asked to find the volume of the ball, right? So the mathematician, he pulls out a measuring tape and he records the circumference. Then he divides by, 2 times pi to get the radius, and then he cubes that result by pi again, and then he multiplies by 4/3, and he calculates out the exact volume of that ball. All right? So the physicist goes, nah, I can do this easy. The physicist gets a bucket of water, and he puts a gallon of water in a bucket, and then he puts the ball in, and he measures the water displacement out to 6 significant figures, giving the very exact representation of the volume of the ball. You know what the engineer does? The engineer writes down the serial number on the ball, and he goes and he looks the volume up online. So there you go. You got to give them. Engineers are a lot of things. Practical is the top of the list. So, all right, folks. So we have a special guest back on the show today. Cyndy Davenport, who is our chief civil tech specialist here at ZenTek, is back on the show to talk with us about the importance of CAD standards and why everybody needs to look at theirs on a regular basis. So, Cyndy, thank you for being back on the show with us.
No problem.
All right, whether you wanted to or not, right? It's a Friday and we made her be here. So, all right. So I tell you what, folks, let's get a little bit of background on Cyndy for folks who don't know her as well as we do, just so everybody will understand why she is the one we brought on to talk about this topic. So, Cyndy, why don't you tell folks about your background in the CAD and design world?
Alrighty. Well, I have spent a big part of my career working as I guess you'd call it a civil technology consultant. And most of that experience was working in engineering and surveying companies as a staff member in the role of implementing and supporting the design technology for them. And so what I would do was I would provide project support, training, workflow advice, customization, and of course, CAD standards management.
There you go.
I was also able to offer tech support from a CAD perspective since I do have an IT background. But regarding workflow, I've created processes for producing atypical civil 3D projects. So, for example, an oil and gas pipeline workflow, a repeatable substation design solution, and even implementing Map 3D to auto-generate labels based on field-collected data that was placed in a database, basically. And let's see. My recent experience was working for larger firms. So making the software work for a large amount of people spread out all over the country was the goal, but it is a challenge. But what is helpful in meeting that goal is having established CAD standards, because that puts everybody on a common ground. There you go.
There you go. I'd say you can see why we have Cyndy in here, right? So just a little bit of a background in this area. So, I guess before we delve into this too deeply, I guess we should kind of start by setting a definition of what we're talking about, right? It's always surprising to me when I talk to, our different clients here at ZenTek, and I get entirely different concepts or entirely different views of what the term, quote unquote CAD standards, right? What that actually entails, right? So let's try and pin that down a bit for today's conversation. So, Cyndy, what do you think of as, CAD standards in this context, right? What are they?
Well, that's a complex answer. Traditionally, the term CAD standards refers to a template, which is a file with a standard setup that has the tools people need to get along with the software, plus turn out consistent work. In the world of AutoCAD, that's a DWT file with ready-made layers, text styles, dimension styles, and block libraries. And in most cases, that's been accompanied with a stern and dryly written CAD manual that tells people how the standards are to be used. Nowadays, CAD standards consist of more than just a template and a manual. There are tools that we use that exist outside the template. Sometimes block libraries are so big that they need to be stored and organized in a shared location so that people can easily find what they need, because going through a long list of blocks inside of drawing is no fun. That's the same case for details too. Details need to be served up in an organized way so that people can put their hands on what they need at that very moment. But now our CAD programs are embedded with BIM tools, and those must be standardized and supported. So as in the case of Civil 3D, those things would be DOT or municipality-based gravity part catalogs, perhaps sophisticated pressure parts catalogs, custom subassemblies, pay item files for quantity takeoff, scripts that make people's lives easier, style sheets for reporting, and then, of course, tool palettes to serve all of those things up. And then again, these must be centralized and shared so that everybody can use them. Workflows would be another standard. Workflows are designed to adhere to best practices by avoiding time-consuming mishaps. But lastly, I want to say that one very most important standard is defining a typical workstation spec, because in order to be productive, all users need to be on common ground there and have not only similar but powerful enough workstation resources to run the program and get the work out the door.
So there you go. So obviously, very simple things now to do CAD standards. Doesn't take any kind of effort to support at all. All right. So yeah, you guys can see it's complex, right? But so I guess now that we at least know what we're talking about when we say CAD standards, I really want to talk about their importance and any way that you cut it, right? And whatever design industry you work in, whether it's civil or architectural or mechanical or anything, doesn't matter. These base CAD standards are going to have an impact on every single design that you put out, right? So it's important to really understand the necessity of them, right? And how they impact your work and your company's profitability. Cyndy, why do you think CAD standards are so important, right? I mean, can't people just kind of stand back and say, we've already got stuff that we've been working with for years and just move on?
Well, that could be the case, but CAD standards are important for keeping people productive. And if they're set up properly, they promote our ability to work as a team and to reduce rework. So compliance is another issue, because many of our clients have their own CAD requirements, which when built into our own standards and workflows, it ensures that our documents meet their specifications.
Okay. That's obviously a very important thing, right? We want to make sure we're getting our products done the way that the folks who are paying us to do them do it, and making sure that it works out a lot smoother and easier for everybody on a daily basis. And like I said, I'm perfectly, I've always been of the opinion that this is something, we're going to talk a little bit more about this, but it's something that has to be revisited. You can't just say, oh, we did it, we're done, it's set. These are kind of living, breathing tools that we need to revisit from time to time. So Rocco, let's wake you up while you're sitting over there in the corner. We do a lot of, consulting and service work in the CAD space here at ZenTek. How much of what we do relates to, CAD standards development and updates with those particular clients?
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of what we do on the CAD side. And, a lot of what we're talking about here might be focused on Civil 3D, but we do a lot with AutoCAD and Revit and BricsCAD. So it is important, and we it like Cindy's saying, it helps to increase productivity and get everybody on the same page too, right? I mean, we talk to a lot of firms that they've merged teams and departments over the years, and so they're kind of dysfunctional in terms of how they work, and so we help to bring all that together. That's why they reach out to us, because they look to us as experienced consultants. And we definitely work with larger firms, but I'd say that a larger majority are smaller to medium firms.
Yeah. Folks who don't always necessarily have the staff that they can spare from billable projects to put together and develop these CAD standards, excuse me, the way that they want to.
Yeah.
All right. So, I guess we've kind of been talking about, right, the benefits of CAD standards and why everyone really, gets something from having well thought out standards. But I also want to kind of take a look at this topic from the other sides. In other words, what happens when you don't have a good CAD standard? So Cyndy, what about that, right? What do you see as the potential negatives and mishaps if people don't emphasize CAD standards inside their design environments?
Well, basically, it's very important that every plan that goes out the door not only looks consistent, but legible and easy to follow. And that means each person on the team needs to be drawing, annotating, or CADing the same way. So any lack of consistency and legibility causes confusion and looks very unprofessional. And once a plan set goes out the door, a lot of eyes are looking at it. And the appearance of construction documents gives people a strong first impression. So if things are confusing, it might affect the outcome in the field, or, might affect the outcome basically of the review also before it gets to the field. And so that's basically it. We need to be consistent, we need to be productive, and plus we want our company's reputation uplifted.
Yeah. And I can't agree with that more. I mean, I tell you how many times in my career I've heard people, cringe. Construction guys are like, "Oh no, it's that company. I hate their plans. I can't read that. They're junk." And you don't want to be that guy. So, all right. So I tell you what, let's take a quick break here to get a commercial in. And when we get back, I want to talk with Cyndy about the practical process of putting together your CAD standards for an organization. All right. So hang in there, folks. We'll be back in just a minute with more of the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, Rocco. So we are sponsoring ourselves yet again today. What is it we want to talk about?
We're going to talk about me today, Jim.
No one wants to talk about you. Not even you.
Oh, fine. Let's talk about ZenTek Tech Blocks.
Awesome. I like ZenTek Tech Blocks. ZenTek Tech Blocks are prepaid support hours that let you call on ZenTek's experienced technical staff to address all your support questions, problems, help you with workflows and standards, really anything you need on the technology side. We're here to provide the support you need so that your most talented people aren't being dragged into helping everybody else in your company instead of working on the billable jobs that you need them focused on. All right. So ZenTek Tech Blocks are available in multiple sizes. We sell them in 5-hour, 10-hour, 20-hour, and 40-hour prepaid support blocks. And if you're interested and you need that sort of help, Rocco, how do they reach out to us?
Yeah, hit up our website, zentekconsultants.net. Give us a ring, 866-824-4459. Or even drop us an email, sales@zentekconsultants.net.
All right, ZenTek Tech Blocks, the vital support that your people need exactly at the moment that they need it. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Cattle Call Podcast. We're talking with Cyndy Davenport from here at ZenTek about the importance of CAD standards. And in this half of the show, I want to focus on, I guess we'll call it the practicalities of developing or even just improving your internal CAD standards. So, Cyndy, what do you think is the most difficult thing that people are going to face in setting up their own CAD standards?
Now, from experience, I think the most difficult thing is agreeing on an aesthetic standards. Everybody has a very strong opinions on what plans should look like and how they should be annotated. You get 12 people in a room and no one's going to agree on it. So I've been in companies also where project managers override an established standard because they have their own ideas of what documents should look like. So Also, it becomes very difficult when a company has multiple offices in various regions. It's nearly impossible to agree on a standard because there are regional ways of doing things. Annotation requirements are typically different from region to region. Even in Virginia, where I'm from, Northern Virginia, construction documents look a lot different from Southeastern Virginia. And even between Northern Virginia and Maryland, they're right there next to each other. Those documents look totally different. And usually it's the annotation. So those are some of the, I think that's one of the most difficult things in establishing a CAD or setting up a CAD standard.
Yeah, no, I absolutely agree with that. I have seen literal screaming matches over, how a detail should and should not be presented in some of these offices. Yeah, just getting folks to agree. That is a huge, huge problem. So, I think that, kind of in line with that, something that everybody wants to consider here, right? It's that there's more to just creating what you think of as that, perfect CAD standards set, right? You also have to kind of look at the practical application of that standard. In other words, how and will your people actually use that new standard? And I think it's kind of what Cyndy was alluding to a little bit in different regions and different offices having different needs and different ways of working. And I've said 100 times on this podcast that humans, doesn't matter where we are, we all instinctively resist change, right? And that top-down orders to change something are almost always doomed to failure. That is not the way to go about this. So, Cyndy, what do you think are the biggest difficulties that our listeners are going to face in getting their people to follow, I guess, any kind of a newly implemented CAD standard?
Well, if a standard isn't easy to follow, then that's where the difficulty lies. With programs like Civil 3D, design objects automatically get placed in predetermined layers. They use default styles that are set up ahead of time, and it makes it very easy for someone to adhere to standards when the template is set up properly. So, and also any standard residing outside the template, like your block libraries, your details, and all that stuff, they need to be served up from within the drawing environment so that people aren't trying to hunt down content or create their own content out of frustration. So in the AutoCAD world, a custom built and well-organized set of tool palettes is great for that.
Yeah. And I think you hit the nail right on the head. It's about making it easy for people. If you can get your guys to say, look, this took you 30 clicks and 2 minutes to do before. Now it's going to take you 4 clicks and 30 seconds. Yeah, that made my life easier. I didn't have to go look for things. It was right where I needed it, when I needed it. I think it's absolutely, the biggest thing you want to do. You got to show them that things are better and easier if you really want them to adopt it as the way to do it. So, a real important thing to keep in mind. So Rocco, when you're talking to clients, kind of after we've worked with them to help them implement a new CAD standard, right? What's kind of the feedback or the end result, particularly longer term, I guess, that you hear from them in terms of adopting those new standards by their end users?
It's like they look at it as a huge accomplishment because they've, gone through so much to get to that point, right? Like you guys are saying, people don't always agree, and who pulls in this direction, who pulls in that direction. So it's a big sense of accomplishment when everything is in order, to see that everybody's pulling in the same direction. It's, everybody's wearing the same uniform, quote unquote, right? So they're definitely happy, and you feel like you've got your ship, sailing in the right direction. So I think it's a big sense of accomplishment is what I get as feedback.
Okay. So I'm glad you added the, sailing in the right direction to that, because in my headphones, it didn't sound like you said the word ship with a P at the end. I was like, wow, where's he going with this? This is a family show. So, all right, folks. So,
get your mind out of the gutter, Joe.
That's where it lives. All right. So I think the other, I call it, I guess, a big area, right? That you're going to have to look at when you're setting up your CAD standards is the how of rolling them out to your company, right? So that everybody is seeing and working with the same standards in their daily workflow, like Cyndy was saying earlier. And at all of them getting it and having it put in place at the same time, if at all possible, so that there's not a mishmash of, old and new standards that are showing up on your jobs that are making things worse. So Cyndy, what about that? What are your recommendations, I guess, on kind of the best way to roll out CAD standards in an organization, particularly a larger one?
Well, I hope I'm going to be answering your question in the way that you expect it to be answered. But my idea is all behind communication. Okay, so I would roll out the standards in a big way. Get sign-off from leadership, create an announcement on the intranet, or use your company's internal social media tools such as Teams, do an internal webinar, hold a meeting to introduce the system to the masses. It's all about communication. Create a team site or have a system for promoting communication and soliciting feedback. People appreciate feeling like they're included and that their contribution is valuable, and this also increases buy-in. That's helping you with promoting and compelling the rest of the staff to adopt the CAD standard.
Yeah, and I agree with your answer 100%.
Okay.
Yeah, I absolutely do. I've been involved in projects where it's like, well, we're going to roll it out for this one group, but we're not going to tell anybody else. We're going to test it and see how it goes, and if that's good, we're just going to make everybody else do it. And it's a bad approach. I mean, the more communication that you get, the more buy-in, the more the more people you can get involved to say, yeah, here are the things. Because at the end of the day, the truth is, everybody has their own area of expertise, and the requirements of that job, you think you understand what someone else does, you don't. Mm-hmm. You need to get that information from them, and they have to have a chance to put in feedback. So yeah, I agree with you totally on that. I love it when you do like one big massive rollout on, say, look, as of the first of next month, the first Monday, we're going to this standard, and here's the standard. Let's talk about it and review it in advance before we make it live. Mm-hmm. So that everybody gets a chance to, get some input into it. So I agree with you on that. All right, I tell you what, as I always do here, I want to give Cyndy the last word to kind of talk about anything else that are, CAD standards related that I didn't think to ask her about on today's show. So Cyndy, what about it? Are there any other important thoughts for people who are looking to develop or rework their CAD standards that you want to hit on?
Well, my thoughts are, taking on standards is a huge task that should have the support of leadership. All right. If the organization has a C-level leadership, then I find it very helpful to have one of those guys involved, particularly a CEO or a COO who might have rose up through the ranks from engineering or surveying and understands the importance of standards. This person doesn't need to be involved in the details, but it can be helpful in showing that there is support from the executive level. And it also helps to have someone with the political finesse to help you navigate through adoption issues.
That was nicely put. I like that. The political finesse. I like that. I don't have any of that, but it's good to have. All right, folks. We'll leave you guys with all of that to think about and get out of here. But again, I just want to thank Cyndy one last time for bringing her formidable intellect and unparalleled skills onto the show. Thanks for being here, Cyndy.
No problem.
All right, guys. We're out of here. We'll catch you next time on the Cattle Call Podcast. All right, everybody. Today's Cattle Call was brought to you courtesy of ZenTek Consultants. That's Rocco and I. ZenTek Consultants works with design and manufacturing firms to help our clients purchase and implement the software that they need in these complex industries. We provide a single point of contact for clients to buy, develop, and learn the most vital software systems for your specific needs. ZenTek strives to be your trusted technology partner from your initial needs all the way through long-term support and training for your entire staff. So Rocco, why don't you tell them how to reach out to ZenTek?
All right, yeah, you can reach out to us through zentekconsultants.net. You can email us at sales@zentekconsultants.net, or you can even call us 866-824-4459.
Excellent. We look forward to hearing from you all.